Okay, so the Cincinnati Reds just drafted Nick Senzel, third baseman from Tennessee. That's been the rumor all day that that's where they were leaning. I had actually heard probably about an hour ago that they were still really considering taking AJ Puck there, but that did not happen. They went with Nick Senzel, who I'm glad to see personally. He was the number one guy on my draft board. Um, he walks way more often than he strikes out. I have to love that, especially for a team like the Reds, who they haven't exactly had too many hitters that have outstanding plate discipline. I mean, there's been Joey Votto and well, Joey Votto. That's about it. Um, Jesse Winker does a lot of that in the minor leagues, so hopefully adding him will kind of give us the Reds at least give them another more professional type of hitter to toss into their lineup. Now, obviously, he's not going to be ready this year and probably not even next year, um, but he's the most polished college hitter in this year's draft class. Um, the question's more about how much power is he going to hit for, rather than is he going to be a major leaguer, or he pretty much answered all the questions about his defense at third base coming into the season, which I still think were more about teams just hadn't seen him play third base. He had been at second base for the majority of his career before that, and so they just weren't sure about exactly what was going to happen. How everything was going to transition over to third. But as the season went along, all of those questions pretty much stopped being asked. So that's kind of what we're at. Quick scouting report, I guess. Very polished hitter, can use the entire field. Love the guy's bat speed. Very quick bat. Um, Line drive approach right now, line drive swing. I think that he's going to develop more loft in his swing as he gets more comfortable with everything. He hits the ball very hard. I can definitely see him hitting 20 to 25 home runs in the future. Um, Probably not right away. I think that that's going to be something that's going to take some time to grow into. Um, Not necessarily because of the strength issue. I think he's very strong right now. I think it's just going to be something that comes with more experience and learning which balls that he wants to try and drive versus ones that he's more comfortable just going for base hits. With sometimes guys are they take a make contact approach a little bit more often, and then as they mature as hitters, they they swing for the fences a little bit more often with certain pitches. And Joey Votto's talked about that as well. You kind of know which pitches you want to drive, and I think that's something that Senzel is uh, more equipped to do than other hitters, just given his overall plate approach. Um, Defensively, as I said, he had those questions coming into the season, but they're pretty much non-existent now. Everybody thinks that he's going to be a quality third baseman. Probably not going to be a Gold Glove defender or anything, but he's not going to be someone who's going to hurt you over there either. Um, Good base runner. Um, Not going to steal you a ton of bases. He might get you double-digit steals, but we're talking 10 to 15, not 25 plus. He's not really fast. He's average, slightly above average runner in terms of pure speed, but he's a very smart base runner. So even if the steals do dry up a little bit as he ages, I think that he's still going to be able to provide good base running value just because he's such a smart base runner. Um, I had everybody send some questions in on Twitter, and so I'll get into those now. Greg came in first. Who are the Reds going to take at 35 40? I have no idea. It, it depends on so many different things. One, what do they have to sign Senzel with? You know, no second pick has ever signed for the full allotment of the slot pick there. I don't think Senzel is going to either. The question is, how much is he going to sign for? How much money is left over? Uh, the rumors all day have been that several high scorers are demanding big bonuses and they're going to drop. I think that the Reds are going to be in really good position to draft one of those guys with one of those two picks if they'd like. The question is, you know, how much is it going to cost to sign those guys? $3 million, they can definitely work with that. If somebody wants $5 million, that's going to be a tougher get. Um, so it really does just depend on how things work out with the money. You know, Rightly or wrongly, that's kind of how things work in the draft. Now that everything's kind of slotted, you've got to have the money. And fortunately for the Reds, they've got more money to spend than anybody else in the draft. So they're definitely in a good position there. And realistically, I think it's there's only one or two teams other than the Reds that can kind of really make that kind of move without really overdrafting someone early. And so I think that they're going to be in good position to get somebody who is ranked on draft boards much higher than 35 or 43 if they want to go that route. Let's see. Adam, that's funny. Why didn't the Reds take Moniak? Yeah. All right. So my birthday buddy, Andy Kroger, we share the same birthday. He's a little crazy sometimes, but I promised him that I would take his crazy questions if he asked them, and this actually is not too crazy, but a little bit crazy. How old will Senzel be when the Reds bring him up to avoid Super 2 stuff? Obviously, that's not going to happen this year. As I said earlier, I don't think that he'll be around, ready to contribute every day until sometime in 2018. And realistically, I mean, you know, that'll make him 23. Um, but if it all depends on if the Reds are ready to compete in 2018 or not. The Chicago Cubs were ready to compete last year, and they kept Chris Bryant down just long enough to get that extra year of service time, which was 12 days. If the Reds really feel that they can compete in 2018, maybe they'll bring him up in a similar fashion. Not necessarily wait for that Super 2 date, just because the big league team needs that kind of player. Um, I doubt that they're going to be fully confident that they can do that right away in 2018. Um, but if they get off to a good start that year, it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't wait until the Super 2 date and they called them up at some point in like a May of that season if they're playing very well and they're feeling good about the team. Let's see. Jordan, potential of Senzel, I kind of covered that a little bit. Um, the quickness to Great American Ballpark, Cincinnati, big leagues, all that. Yeah, I think 2018 is an ideal target date for him. Um, I don't think he's going to get there any sooner than that. Not just because even a very polished hitter like he is, it's going to take some time to work up through the minor leagues. I wouldn't be shocked if he started the season in Dayton and finished the year in Daytona, um, with Double A on the forefront next season. Um, he's a very polished hitter. I'd be surprised if he didn't excel this year in the minor leagues after he signs. But there's really no big rush either to get him to the big leagues. Um, so I think that 2018 is probably an ideal target date. And like I said, just it's not necessarily just about how he's performing. If the Reds aren't feeling too competitive in early 2018, they're not going to call him up just to get him there right away. They will hold him down to get that extra year of service time, to get that extra year of arbitration rather than getting, we're worrying about Super 2 status, similar to what they're doing with Jesse Winker and Cody Reed right now. Let's see what else we got. Jordan asked about what position Senzel is likely to play. Third base seems like the position that everybody believes he's going to play. He spent some time at shortstop this year at Tennessee, but he was impressive there, given that nobody had ever seen him there before. Um, but it seems that third base is where everybody believes that he's going to be. I think that's where the Reds are going to play him. I guess there's still an outside shot that he could slide over to second base if something changes along the way. But I think that for right now, the Reds are going to focus on him at third base, and he should be fine there. He's got all the tools to play there, and there don't really seem to be any concerns at this point. And people retweeting my tweet about Senzel. Um, yeah, here you go. I will be on 700 WLW tonight at 11 p.m. to talk about uh, the various draft picks. I think that the Reds should be done with all three of their draft picks tonight. Um, number 2, which they already made and took Nick Senzel, and then number 35 and number 43. I'm pretty sure all those will be off the board by the time I go on with Rocky tonight. You can listen online, 700WLW.com at 11 if you're going to be up for that. If you live in the Cincinnati area, you can just bust out your radio, or, well, I guess at night you can probably hear it for 400 or 500 miles from outside of Cincinnati, but I will definitely be doing that tonight, so be sure to tune in. Um, Reds for life, starting Nick Senzel starting at high. That's a possibility. It would not surprise me if they did that, but I do think that they'd probably send him to Dayton first. Um, that team could really use a third baseman. Um, and then they've also got Taylor Sparks in Daytona for the second straight year at third base. And I think that the Reds would probably like to get both of those guys everyday playing time at third base. Now, obviously, Nick Senzel being the number two pick, he's going to get preferential treatment in terms of playing time over other guys. But I do think that he'll wind up in Dayton first. But I'd say there's an outside shot that he'll wind up in Daytona to start his career. But if I had to put money on it, I'd definitely say he'll start in Dayton. A bunch more tweets. Is Nick Senzel the safest pick they could have made? I think so. He's been, excuse me, he's been number one on my draft board since late March. Um, he's just got the best combination of floor and ceiling of anybody in the draft. Um, he's such a polished hitter. I mean, obviously, you never know until you know. I mean, Dustin Ackley seemed like the safest hitter in the draft for years when he was drafted in 2009. He had over 400 every year at North Carolina. Uh, didn't exactly work out for him for a few different reasons. Um, and so, I mean, you never know, but from what we do know now about all of these players, it just seems that he's easily the safest pick in the draft. He doesn't have defensive questions. He's going to hit. I mean, the biggest question is he going to hit 15 home runs or is he going to hit 25? Um, that's it's pretty much the safest pick they could have had. Bunch more retweets. I really should have set this up better. This is backwards. Okay. Um, MLB Network said the Reds got the next Roland. I don't think so. Scott Rowland's a borderline Hall of Famer. It's very tough to compare players to guys like that. And a lot of these player comparisons. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Nick Senzel could be a 300 hitter with 25 home runs at third base, and that's there's nothing wrong with that. That's an all-star caliber player every year. Um, but Scott Rowland was kind of that guy, but he also had Gold Glove caliber defense every year for 15 years. Nick Senzel's not going to provide that kind of defense, or at least he's not expected to. Uh, you know, every now and again, guys come out and they put in the work and they can turn into those kind of fielders. But right now, it just doesn't seem like that's that's kind of in the cards for Senzel. Not that he's a bad defender, but Scott Rowland's one of the better defend yeah better defensive third baseman of all time. So that I'm not sure I buy into that comp. I mean, size wise, I can see it a little bit, but I just think that they're too different to make that comp for me. How quickly can you get to the majors? Like I said before, I think it's 2018 would be a target date. Um, I mean, I think that he probably could be ready to start in 2018. But again, that's not always when guys show up. Obviously, contract status comes into play. Having a place to play comes into play. Okay. And we are out of questions. So I'm going to send out one more thing to see if anybody has anything. Um, now, one thing that'll be interesting to see how it plays out is exactly who falls to them at number 35 and number 43. And as I said earlier, the amount of slot money they've got is it's more than anybody else. Um, obviously, they've I'm sure they've talked with Nick Senzel's representative, who at this point probably isn't an agent because they he will he well I guess he's done playing college baseball now, so he probably could have signed with an agent already. But before then, they're still just advisors, just kind of work around the you can't have an agent thing and keep your eligibility. Um, Weird college athletic situation, but um, you know, a lot of the high school guys were floating out big numbers. Um, it seems like the Reds are going to have quite a few to pick from. And then there's always the wild card of Puerto Rican shortstop Delvin Perez. Um, I think that you know you depending on where you look, you've seen he's not going to last through the top 20 picks, even with the failed drug test. In some other places, they've got him falling out of the first round completely. If he's there at 35, I'd take him over anybody else. It's still available. I'd find a way to make it work and pay him, but we will definitely see. Nick asks if the Reds are going to try Senzel at shortstop or if he goes straight to third. I think he's going to go straight to third base. Um, there's no real reason to try him at shortstop. I don't think that anybody really believes he can play shortstop in the long run. Speaking with the Reds player developmental people in the past, they've always said that they want to keep guys at shortstop as long as they can. They think that it better prepares them for other positions. Um, but Senzel is not really a shortstop, so keeping him there like they did with Todd Frazier for a long time in the minor leagues is a little bit different. Frazier, while no one really expected him to be a big league shortstop for the minor leagues, he could cover you well enough there. I don't think that Senzel's got quite those kind of defensive tools that they're going to even think about playing him at shortstop. I think it's third base all the way for right now. Luke the Reds, does he have grit? Um, I don't know. I hate things when I hate when people say things like he's got grit or he's a grinder or he's a baseball guy. Whatever, any of those things. It's always weird. It always means something to somebody else. It means different things to different people. You never really know exactly what someone's trying to say. So I try not to pay too much attention to things like that. Um, Jeff was wanting to know when to expect him to where do I expect him to start, and like I said, I think Dayton's probably the most likely place that he'll start. Um, if he winds up in Daytona, it wouldn't be a surprise. I'd be surprised if they send him to Billings. To be honest with you, it seems that that's the place where the Reds typically send a lot of guys, but they haven't taken a college player this high at the position player in quite a while. The previous two guys were Yonder Alonso um, and Yasmani Grandal. And both of those guys were taken in the top 15 as college players. And they both started their careers in Advanced A, which that would be Daytona right now. I don't think that the Reds are going to push Senzel quite that hard. But we'll see. But if I had to put the money down, it would definitely be with Dayton. How's his average with runners and scoring? I honestly don't know how he hits it with runners in scoring position, but um, generally speaking, guys hit about the same with runners in scoring position as they do overall. So I'd imagine he hits very well with runners in scoring position. Um, let's see. Will this pick allow them to go above slot at 35? I think so. No number two pick or no number one pick either, for that matter, has ever signed for slot money. So the Reds are definitely going to save money with this pick and this signing. The question is more about how much money are they saving, um, and that's kind of the big thing. Maybe they'll get um, a $2 million savings, $1 million. I mean, it could be as much as $3 million. We just don't know yet. The Reds clearly know. They've spoken with his representation. They've spoken with him. They know what he's asking for. Um, so I'm sure that they've got a pretty good idea of exactly how much money they've got to work with for number 35 or number 43 pick. Yeah, Cam, I think that's where he starts out at. Um, but there's there's that chance that it doesn't start in Dayton, but I'd be surprised if he started somewhere else. And James, yeah, pretty happy with that pick. James, by the way, is one of the producers at 15:30 a.m. here in Cincinnati, at 700 WOW here in Cincinnati. Um, he's awesome. He books the shows, or he books some of the shows at least. Had plenty of interactions with him. Pretty sure I'm going to talk to him again later today. I think he's doing Rocky's show tonight, and I actually talked with him earlier. He was doing Lance McAllister's show in the afternoon, um, and I was on there talking draft like 3:15 this afternoon. But yeah, definitely happy with the pick. It was the guy that I was hoping for. I mean, not that I would have been upset with about 8 or 9 different picks The draft's kind of been wide open this year with nobody really jumping out and saying, I'm the guy, pick me. Um, but Senzel was definitely the guy that I was hoping for. He was the top guy on my board. So yeah, definitely happy with that pick. And James just now followed me. So awesome. Okay, well, unless we get something else that comes in, might cut it off here. We're getting, I don't know, what are we? We're 20 minutes in or so. Oh, okay. Oh, Greg asking where the Reds start them off at, which we've addressed a little bit. Um, so I think we're going to cut it off there for now, and try and get this thing uploaded. But um, yeah, thanks for checking in, and um, maybe we'll do another one of these in the morning when we have a better idea, or well, I guess we'll know for sure who the Reds drafted at number 35 and number 43. Um, Definitely not going to get that tonight because the draft will be going until midnight tonight. So figure there wouldn't be too much interaction, but maybe we'll do that in the morning before day two starts and get that up on the site. So thanks for joining in, and yeah, we'll discuss the rest of this tomorrow.